auspicious greetings. It's good to see everyone. Today is our last class. Yeah, I know, like especially towards the end of the year, many of us has many things going on with the families, with work. Uh, like for example, the temple, we are kind of like prepping up, getting ready for the new year. A lot of planning, including this afternoon. We have the parents and children. We don't have the classes, but the children and the parents, they are helping up at the main shrine, decorating for the new year. So even like here along the fence, you might notice there's a LED tube that is on the fence. We're making a dragon. So next year is a year of dragon, but there's a lot of planning, and then of course like with the help of all the volunteers, we just try to have different volunteers helping out different places, so that every one of us still have time for the family, still have time for work, still have time for temple. Yeah, so today is our last class for the year. And I'm going to share with everyone Keys to Living Well, which is also the title of the book that we have been using so far. So, and of course, like before we start, let us give ourselves a very brief moment to center ourselves, focus on our breathing. I know like some of us might just arrive, some of us might still be doing something, but let us just give ourselves a very brief moment to gather our thoughts and just focus on our breathing. Now let us slowly taking 3 deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in again, breathing out. Let's gently rub our palms together. Cover our palms on our eyes, the top of our head, over our ears, to the back of our neck. Let's gently rub our palms together. Massage our shoulders, arms, all the way to our fingers and wrists. Okay, so before we start with our discussion on keys to living well today, let us have a quick recap of what we have discussed last Saturday when we talked about the major problems or challenges of being humans. So a summary of what we have discussed is a major problem of being human is failure to see our mind, which in turn keeps us knowing ourselves. Thus, we should try to look inside and not just external. We try to do reflections. We try to see what we can do better. Of course, there's always a few challenges along the way in our lives. Okay, so and then instead of like looking at others, if you see others that we can learn from, of course, like we try to learn from them instead of like experiencing or feeling jealous or um, being competitive with others. And when we look inside, we just try to see and observe whatever room that we can improve, whatever things that we can work on it. But of course, when it comes to challenges, it could be something external, like the weather, like our conditions, living conditions, and so on and so forth. But the main focus here is how our mind look at things, how our mind embraces everything every day. Okay, so this is just a quick recap of what we have kind of like discussed last Saturday. And for today, keys to living well, it seems very straightforward, but we will see whether we can do all of them or not. Okay, so we'll try and see. So living in this world, every one of us wants to live well, don't we? But do we know how? Okay, this is a question for us to ask ourselves. Even though we may all know how to live, but of course our attitudes towards life are all different. Okay, so when it comes to the quality and the meaning, everything in our life it is so different. Okay, and for us to define the keys to living well, of course it is very subjective. Okay, and then the first thing that we ask ourselves, how do we live a healthy life? So the word healthy here, it covers how many aspects? Physical and mental, right? Yeah, emotion that is included in the mind. And then, so sometimes we say, what do you call that? Physical or psychological, yeah, both areas. Okay, so how do we live a healthy life? Okay. Of course, the first question that we ask ourselves, do we have a healthy life? Yes, no? Mm. Again, every one of us, the way that we look at our life, it's also different from individual to individual. To us, we might think that I have a healthy life. But then others, like especially your family, living in the same household, they say you should sleep earlier. Okay, shouldn't stay awake until like 2 or 3 in the morning, especially the younger ones, you know. Okay, but then to them, they say this is normal, this is healthy. Yeah, but then the definition of healthy life, it also differs from one individual to another. Okay, but then today we're going to look at the 4 points that we try our best to live a healthy life, and then those are the keys to living well. First one, okay, pretty straightforward. Eat 3 proper meals a day. Okay, so we rely on food and water to nourish our bodies. Not only maintaining nutritious balanced diet, we must eat at the right time and at the appropriate amount. So what Verbal Master meant about eat 3 proper meals a day, that is just a general suggestion to everyone. But of course, every one of us has a different physical condition. Sometimes some of us might take small amount, but many meals because the stomach cannot handle digesting the too much food. So the doctor advises one to have like many meals, but small amount. And some of us only take 2 meals a day. Okay, so the key here is we must eat at the right time and at the appropriate amount. So this is, every one of us are different. So we have to see what is appropriate amount for us. And then every day, we just try to have the consistent time. If we have breakfast at 7:30, we just try to stick to 7:30 every day, if possible. If you have lunch at 12 noon, for example, at the temple, breakfast 7:30, lunch 12 noon, dinner 5:30. So this is our daily schedule. This is also our daily practice. Okay, and of course the amount. Breakfast is slightly bigger. Lunch, okay. Medicinal meal or dinner is usually just soup, something light. Okay, because this is what we feel that is sufficient. But then again, every one of us differs. But the key here is we try to eat at the right time, every day, at the right amount. Some of us, like for example, usually have like many of us where you work, so when you're so focused on your job or work, sometimes you have odd hours eating meals. Okay, today you have lunch at 1 o'clock, the next day you have lunch at 3, and then the next day you only have brunch, okay, and no lunch, and then from brunch, and then you have dinner, heavy dinner, okay. So if we were to continuously do that, it is not healthy for our physical body. Just like on Thursday, 2 days ago, the temple had the blood drive, okay, blood drive, okay. And then three monastics, three of us went and donated blood. And then on Thursday, the Red Cross account manager, Stephanie, happened to drop by and say hi to us. And then I kind of asked her, have you donated blood? And she said, no, my blood count doesn't meet the standard. She's like below the hemoglobin. And then the 3 staff from the Red Cross look at her and say, oh, they are all vegetarian. And then they donated blood. Shame on you. The 3 staff from Red Cross, like, just joking. But the point here is why we can donate blood. It is because we just try to have a balanced diet. Even though we are vegetarian, we just try to make sure that we have balanced diet. And then, of course, the right time, like every day, we have the same time having meals. Okay, so this is how we can make sure that we just try to have a healthy lifestyle. Okay, this is something that we can manage. Okay, but of course, physically, you can say that, well, if I were to say that I want to be 365 days healthy, again, this is not something that I can fully manage, but I can try my best. Okay, sometimes I still might catch cold because of the weather, because of physical changes. There are still elements that I cannot manage, cannot control. But at least we just try to manage and regulate the proper meals. It's something that we can manage. Okay. So of course we try to avoid harmful substance. Okay. Like doing drugs or that substance, like harmful substance, is like taking too much of the dosage, or we know that this is not good for the physical body, and yet you still take it. Okay, we need to try to avoid harmful substance. Okay, so, and of course, just like what I mentioned, life can often be very, very busy, especially those of you that works long hours, sometimes especially during the peak season, end of the year, or during the tax season. Sometimes because of different professions, the time that you're very busy, it differs from one to another. So whether you're a full-time mom or dad, or a 9 to 7 office worker in the city, there are so many different things that need to do every single day. We still have a long to-do list, no matter who we are, what we do. Okay? But then at least we need to try to have allocate time to have very regulated time and amount of food that we take. And we just try to avoid like feeling so hungry only then we start eating or eating while you're still working. That can cause us symptoms like heartburn, indigestion. It could affect our health in the long run. Okay, but some of us might see that I'm still young, I can do it. It's just a few months, few days, no worries. But then down the road, things will accumulate over time. Okay, so that's the reason why in the temple, um, if you have the chance, when you go to our dining hall, you can look at the dining hall on the wall. We have what we call the 5 meal contemplation. Can you see? Okay, should be pretty sure. Okay, so what is the 5 meal contemplations? The first one is assess the amount of work involved, weighing up the origins of the food, meaning that whatever food that we have, okay, so we contemplate on where does the food come from, okay, and how much effort were being put into this preparation of food, okay, so that we can appreciate whatever that we have during that mealtime. Okay, the second contemplation is reflects on one's own moral conduct. Perfect or not, take this offering. This is more of like a reflection in our daily practice. Okay, sometimes like when we have the food, we just try to reflect upon what we have done to receive this food. Okay, even though you might buy it, order it from the restaurant, but imagine like how much work you have put into it. To have a plate of spaghetti, a slice of pizza, okay, you still need to, so much work. Of course, like reflect upon one's own moral conduct. It could also refer to a practitioner like ourselves, myself, okay, or it could be referring to any one of you, like even though you pay for it, but where does the money comes from? There's a lot of effort that were put into it, including buying food from the restaurant. And the third contemplation is safeguard the mind against all errors. Do not give rise to hatred or greed. Okay, so sometimes, especially when you have buffet lunch or dinner, or when you used to go to the restaurant that have good food, and then one day you went to the same restaurant, but the taste of the food turned out differently. Okay, it might not be what you have imagined, what you used to have it. It could be they changed the cook. Okay, but whatever that we have to be mindful of when we are tasting and having this food. Do we give rise to like if this is so delicious? Do we give rise to the thoughts of I want to have more? So this is greed, okay? Or if you taste the food, the taste is slightly different than before. Like for example, even in your home, okay, sometimes you have either someone in your family to cook the dinner for you or a meal for you. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's sometimes it's there's room for improvement. So whenever we might give rise to the thought of like, what is this food? Okay, it won't go to the extent of hatred, but dislike. Okay, so the thought of disliking, and we have to be aware of that, mindful of that, because first of all, we look at the first and second contemplations. Things don't come easily. Okay, even though here in the United States, resources are plenty. Okay, but we still need to cherish and appreciate the things that we have. Okay, so just be aware and be mindful of the thoughts that give rise during the mealtime. And the fourth contemplation is regard this food as good medicine, so as to treat the weakened body, meaning that food is not just food. Balanced diet, nutritional food, it acts as a medicine to sustain and maintain our physical well-being. If we don't have food for a day or two, we can still hang in there. But what about 3 days and onwards? We need food to maintain the physical body. We need water, we need air. Okay, so all this is part of the essential to maintain our healthy body. Okay, so when we eat food, it's not just how delicious they are, but we look at the food as medication to nourish our physical body. Okay, and the fifth one, in order to accomplish the way, one deserves to accept this food. So the 5 meal contemplation towards the fifth one is, why do we have this food? Why do we eat? So that we can practice, so that we can do whatever we need to do every day. Okay, so that also reminds us of the Buddha. Before he realized enlightenment, what did the Buddha do? He didn't eat. And he actually ate very, very minimum. So according to the text, it's a grain. But basically it meant that the Buddha before enlightenment, he only took very, very minimum. Okay, and he almost lost his life because there's not sufficient nutrients and food to sustain the body. So that's the reason why when the Buddha realized about that, he left the ascetic practice, okay, and he started to take in food and maintaining the balance, the food that is needed to sufficient amount so that he can continue his practice until enlightenment. So the Buddha always reminded us, when it comes to practice, we have to balance ourselves. Either way, whether one indulging in the luxury life, that is an extreme. If a person is too attached to one's practice, that is also an extreme. When it is time for us to sleep, we go to sleep. When it's time for us to work, we work. When it is time for us to read, we read. Okay? So we have to practice right religion, which I will going to cover later on as one of the keys to living well. Okay, but this one is basically focusing on the right time, right food, sufficient amount of food. Okay, so the second point is dress appropriately for the occasion. This might seem very straightforward. Besides food, clothes are a major part of life. They keep us warm and enhance our looks. Okay, so we should wear the proper attire when we go out according to social convention and culture. Okay, so does any one of you thought of a time where a person or yourself like show up in a place in an inappropriate clothing? Anyone has that or experience, or anyone have come across someone who, like, getting ready for job interviews but came in a t-shirt and a jeans? Or like wearing overly casual clothing when you want to go to weddings or gala, coming in shorts, flip-flops, okay? And even sometimes like at the temple or in religious ceremony, sometimes a person might not be aware of what to wear. Okay, they might come in a shorts, flip-flops. Okay, so that's the reason why that's like we learn as we grew up how to dress appropriately, so that we won't be awkward, like appearing in one place like, oh, okay. Whether it is like wearing too casually or overdoing the formality. Okay, So, but then for this point, I don't have any examples, but if you have any examples to share, anyone online? Okay. Well, we can share towards the end of the class if you thought of anything. Okay. So the third point is work and rest accordingly. Okay. Sometimes we might have the misunderstanding of like, oh, if I work very hard, okay, uh, then I will have a good turnout. Uh, or I work very hard, only then it shows that how well practiced I am. All this is the misunderstanding or misconcept that one has. We have to have again a middle path practice where we just every one of us have 24 hours in a day. Yeah. And though we all have different jobs, we still need to maintain a normal schedule for sleep, work, exercise, and rest, and so on and so forth. Okay. So sometimes like we have to be aware that even though we might have um, a timeline to meet at work, but still we try to work on it. If we cannot meet the timeline, sometimes we need to find another alternative, different ways, or sharing or informing our supervisor in a very uh, in a like let our supervisor knows that what we will not be able to meet the timeline. Okay, so communication is very important. But of course, by working and resting accordingly, we benefit our health, build our character, and enhance our work, social life, and family life. So sometimes it might seem to be very straightforward, work and rest accordingly. But sometimes I know that some of us use the daytime as the nighttime and use the nighttime as the daytime. Okay. But of course, it also depends on one's occupation. Okay, like for example, doctors, registered nurse, sometimes they have to work in a different shift. They have to be what do you call that? Be on call and work at night over the midnight to the next day. Okay, that is also one of the possibility. But here, what I'm trying to say is that for those of us who have choices to live in a normal schedule, we have to try to remind ourselves to have a regulated schedule for sleep, work, exercise, rest, and so on and so forth. So one of the examples that you might have heard before, it was between the Buddha and Aniruddha. Does everyone knows who is Aniruddha? Okay. He is one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha, Aniruddha. Okay. And then Aniruddha has let me share with you the story first before I share with you what is Aniruddha known for as one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha. So there was one occasion when the Buddha was sharing the teachings, and then Aniruddha was like sitting there and then falling asleep. Oh, okay. And then the Buddha saw that, and then the Buddha said, "Pity for your love of sleeping. You are like a clam sleeping for 1,000 years without ever hearing the name of the Buddha." Okay. So even though like the words are very straightforward, I wouldn't say harsh, but it is a reminder that it is time for you to practice, but yet you're sleeping. Okay. And then Aniruddha, after hearing what the Buddha said, he felt so bad about himself. Okay. And then he felt so ashamed for what he had done, falling asleep during the Buddha's sharing of the Dharma. Okay, so, and then after hearing what the Buddha said, he replied, "The Buddha, please forgive my laziness. From today on, I vow never to sleep, instead practice diligently." Okay, but then the Buddha advised him that this is a reminder for yourself. Okay, but when it is time for you to sleep, you still need to sleep. When it is time to listen or practice, that is the time for you to practice. But then Aniruddha, after saying that, he stuck to his vow and would not rest even for a minute. Every day, when it's time for him to sleep, he stay awake. Okay? And in just a few times, his body couldn't handle it, and his eyes started to hurt. Okay? Even though the Buddha has advised him again and again about balancing practice and rest, but then Aniruddha refused to listen. He refused to listen to the Buddha. Soon enough, Aniruddha lost his eyesight. And because he didn't have sleep. Okay? He didn't rest. He never close his eyes for days. Okay? And eventually he went blind from overexertion. After he became blind, even though he still continued practicing, he had trouble participating in everyday activities with the rest of the Sangha. And sometimes he couldn't even manage his own things. For example, he couldn't patch his robes when they are torn. So that's why he was trying to ask for help from another monk. And when the Buddha heard about that, the Buddha went to Aniruddha. This is the picture that you're seeing here. And then the Buddha helped to sew his robe. And then at the same time, the Buddha continued and to share the teachings and advise Aniruddha in terms of how to practice, talking about emphasizing the right way to be diligent. So the Buddha said, cultivation cannot be accomplished if we work too hard or too little. You must cultivate accordingly. Okay, so again, the middle path is the key. Okay. If it is time for us to rest, we don't rest. And of course, we will feel asleep during practice time, right? Because we don't have sufficient rest. Okay. So eventually, Aniruddha, after listening and experience what he was experiencing, Aniruddha actually continued to practice diligently until he realized our hardship and he has divine eye, meaning that one of the supernatural power of being able to see without the physical eye. Okay? It is because he continued to practice later on. So as one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha, Aniruddha is known for divine eyes. Okay? So, but then it is not for us to follow what Aniruddha has been through, but it's just part of his journey in practicing and how he got too attached to quote unquote right religion, which is not right religion. Okay, it's not the middle way. Okay, when it's time to rest, we rest. When it's time for us to practice, we practice. When it's time for us to eat, we eat. Okay. So the last point, Verbal Master Xing Yun also shared with us, cultivate a calm spiritual life. Living in this materialistic life, we also need a spiritual one. When our spiritual life is well organized, our body and mind will be in balance and our emotions stable. No matter how busy we are, we need to find time to have a spiritual resting moment. Okay, so spiritual resting moment could be we have a moment to ourselves, whether to practice meditation or just like earlier, we do some painting, okay, or any of the practices that we opt for, or even like copying the sutras, the teachings, or reading books. That is also a spiritual resting moment where we can transition from what our work, our everyday, our routine, to give ourselves a moment to focus on our practice. Okay, we should talk and reflect on ourselves, recharging our spirit through religious practices. And of course, some of us might have a Buddha altar at home where one can practice bowing, chanting, or meditating. If you have your spiritual corner in your home, you can have a spiritual resting moment. Or if you're in a neighborhood, you can always buzz your way in. Just ring the doorbell, come to the temple. Okay. And as part of the practice that everyone is familiar with, but it's just a refresher. We always talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, okay, as the fourth Noble Truth. We talk about Four Noble Truths. What is the first one? Suffering. We get to know what is dukkha, get to know what is suffering, what are the things that we're not satisfied with. And the second Noble Truth, we talk about the causes that give rise to the suffering. And the third Noble Truth is which the Buddha shared with us, a mind without suffering, a liberated mind, or what we call nirvana, enlightened mind. And the fourth one is how we get there. How do we realize enlightenment? How do we practice? So the fourth Noble Truth, where we usually refer to as one of the practices, is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so what is right understanding? Understanding the teachings, having the right view of what the Buddha is trying to say. And the second one is right thought. Okay, every day we have billions of thoughts every single moment. Okay, sometimes we just don't recall. We are not being mindful of what we have in our mind. It just arises and seizes all the time, even without us knowing what we have in our mind. Okay, sometimes we might do certain things and then, what am I doing? Or you open up the refrigerator door and look at all the food in the refrigerator. What is the food I'm going to take out from the refrigerator? Okay, so if we have that moment, we all have that moment, which means that we do not have the right thought during that moment. Our mind could be somewhere else. Okay, and then the third one is right speech. Okay, so we just try to be aware and also be mindful of the words that we say to others. Words come very fast. Okay? So especially what we see, what we perceive, sometimes we just react what we experience and just say it. And the thing about words, that is very hard because once you say it, you won't be able to retrieve it. Nowadays, text messages, once you send it, you can still unsend it or you can do editing. For email, you have a few seconds to undo it. But then when it comes to words, when we say it out, it's already out. You won't be able to retrieve it, undo it. And even if we say it and then when we approach the same person saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't say that. But there's still, the impression is already there. So right speech is also one of the Noble Eightfold Path that every day we have to keep on practicing and reflecting upon that. Okay, and right action. Every day we have so many actions, we do so many things. We think about it, we perceive, we react, and then we make decision. So all the decisions that we make, this is actions. So we have to make sure that every action that we do every day is according to the path. We're not harming others. We're not doing something unwholesome. Okay. And of course, right livelihood is referring to one's occupation or one's professions. Just like imagine here on Park Boulevard, sometimes we'll say that, okay, liquor store, that is not right livelihood because whatever that you are selling, of course, it goes back to the buyer, the customers, how much you want to take the liquor or the wine or beer or whatever, alcohol. Okay, but then if you have that business, you are creating that conditions for people to access to that substance, okay, that beverage, okay. But then again, right livelihood, we try our best, okay. to be aware and make sure that our profession, our occupation is not legal. I'm not saying about legal work, but it's more of morality, ethical part of it. It goes beyond the law and regulations. It go beyond that. Okay. Now, for example, sometimes there are things that is unavoidable. So, for example, there was one occasion Purple Master went to Japan, where there's a small island in Japan where he was being invited to preside over the 5 precepts ceremony to that island of villagers. Okay. And of course, because they're living on an island, a tiny island, what they can do is just to fish for life. There's no other option for them to choose to work for life. Okay. So Probo Master during the whole ceremony, he emphasized on the first precepts, like no killing. He emphasized on the intention. For the fishermen, because there's no choice unless you move out of the island. Okay. He shared with the fishermen saying that when you fish for life, do you have an intention of just killing the fish? Or you just want your intention is mainly focusing on giving this opportunity for your family to live this life, enough earning. And even when you're fishing, you do not have the intention of harming them or killing them, but you focus more on the intention of like putting food on the plate. Okay. Because the 5 precepts, when it comes to no killing, is mainly referring to humans. Okay. It's not unlike the no killing precepts of the Bodhisattva's precepts, where it focuses on the mind, the thoughts, and also not only that, but it broadens the scope from human to all beings. That is the Bodhisattva's precepts. Okay. But here, because the villagers do not have any other options, there's no choices. Okay. So when it comes to the question of like the practice of life, right livelihood is mainly referring to the general public, where you have option to choose what you want to do for life. We just try to make sure that we are aligned with the path, the practice of not harming others, and then it's not unwholesome in a way. Okay. And of course, the 6th one is right effort. Going back to the examples of Aniruddha and the examples of what the Buddha mentioned about middle path, right effort is referring to when we work hard in our practice, we still need to balance between practice, rest, eating, everything. Okay, we still need to balance. Okay, if we were to overdo or practice in extreme or doing certain things in extreme, that is not right effort. Okay, and then last 2 is mainly focusing on right mindfulness and right concentration. Okay, mindfulness is awareness in our daily interaction with others. Right concentration is mainly referring to the focus of our mind, where when we are doing certain things, we just try to focus on what we're doing at that time. Okay, putting our mind there. Okay, and eventually, for example, when we practice meditation, when we have the time to ourselves, when we meditate, at some point, we try to focus on breathing. We try to focus on reciting the Buddha's name. There are different practices for us to cultivate right concentration as well as right mindfulness. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path that can guide us in living this spiritual resting moment. Even though we might focus on the spiritual resting moment, but we also hope that the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, we practice throughout our whole day. That is ideal. But of course, sometimes when we are so busy, when we are so overwhelmed with so many things, sometimes the Noble Eightfold Path It's just Noble Eightfold Path on the side. It's not part of our everyday practice. But eventually, the more that we learn, the more that we remind ourselves, we hope that that can be part of our everyday life, okay, ideally. And we all can make it because the Buddha said that you can do it. We can do it. Everything is possible. Okay? If we put in effort, if we try it out. Okay? So to conclude, what I would like to share with everyone today is that even though we may choose to live simply, we still need to look after our daily activities well. As we live, we must strive for a life of value, meaning that sometimes if we overemphasize on living simply, okay, it could be the food, it could be the things that we have. Again, we still need to look after whatever that we need to do every day. Okay, we won't be able to say that, oh, I just want to live very simple life, focus on practice, and I'll find one cave and I'll meditate inside the cave, away from people. Okay, that could be just a short-term retreat, but it's not like we will do it for our whole life. Again, right efforts, middle path, even the Noble Eightfold Path. This is a reminder for ourselves. So to conclude the 4 points, the things that we might think that it is easy, but these are the things that we might easily forgotten. Eat 3 meals, proper meals a day, meaning regulating the time and the amount of meals every day. Second point, dress appropriately for the occasion. Third point, work and rest accordingly. When it's time for us to work, we work. When it's time for us to practice, we practice. When it is time for us to rest, we take a rest, and so on and so forth. And the last one is cultivate a calm spiritual life. Okay, so those are the suggested keys to living well. And I know that there are also like different other many practices, but this is just a reminder to what we might have easily taken for granted of, and that it might affect either our physical health or our mental health. Okay, so before we go to question and answer, let me do an announcement first. Excuse me. Today is the last class for our FoGuangHuB class. So next year, I'm referring to FoGuangHuB class, okay, meaning focusing on the keys to living well. Next year, I'm going to have continue with a different sutras, different topic. It is living the Dharma, Bodhisattva's practice. Okay, and for FoGuangHuB classes, because it is for the throughout the whole North America. Okay, so my class is just one of the programs from FoGuangHuB. So in this class, I will have it online. Okay, on Thursday evening, 7:30 Pacific time. Okay, so you don't have to worry about remembering it, but I just want to share this with you. That is next year, the FoGuangHuB classes, okay, that we will have it online on Thursday evening, 7:30 Pacific time. Okay. But then here in San Diego, in our Shifan Temple classes, in 2024, we are going to have every Saturdays, we will have meditation and Buddhism courses, which is the last point that we'd like to share with you, 2 to 4. So the space that we're in right now, it will be called what is it? Community room. Community room. So this will be the space for us to meditate, have classes, interactions, even our TBIF programs. If you join me in person, you'll be right here. Okay. And then for the last day of this year, if you happen to be in San Diego or you are in San Diego, I'm talking to those online. Okay. we will have the World Peace Meditation Day. Okay, from 10 o'clock in the morning until 11:30. And in the afternoon, we also have a year-end potluck with a vegetarian barbecue, where our English groups will join with the youth group to have this year-end potluck. Okay, and Heliga has helped to set up the Google document where you can put in the dishes that you would like to share on that day. Okay, so that is the announcements, but don't worry about this. We will email out with all this announcement, but it's just to put it up front so that you know and look forward to it. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions regarding what I shared today. I know that everyone is like, any questions about Keys to Living Well?
For the rest of this month, are we still going to have meditation class?
No. No. Yes, this is the last class.
Meditation class
yes.
till January?
Yes. Okay. And then you can join us for December 31st, the World Peace Meditation Day.
Right.
Yeah. Where we'll have meditation in different form, and then we will conclude with a prayer. Yeah. Yes, Marisa.
I always feel like I know what the goals are and how to live well, but like life seems to like interfere like a lot. And I'm trying to always figure out. I know technically I'm not supposed to multitask between living well and whatever else going on. So the question I have is, how do you practice when we have everything else, responsibilities, stuff, work, and those things? I mean, you can't have like you have to work. I mean, or do something with your life. You don't want to just be in a cave, because in a cave I could probably do this as long as there's food delivered to me. But I'm just trying to figure out how do you achieve. Well, is this a goal we're trying to achieve? Like this is like my carrot that I'm trying to chase after.
So as part of what Marisa, I just want to make sure those online can hear. Marisa was asking like how to have a balanced lifestyle between work and practice, even though one might know everything about the practices, but when it comes to
Practicing
a lot of stuff going on, and you still need to handle the day-to-day obligations, responsibilities, and at the same time knowing that, oh, I need to practice, right?
Yeah.
And then your question is how to
I guess
remind yourself, or how do you practice, right?
how like there's only a limited time in a day, and this is a goal, I understand, but there's also like whatever, like your roof falling or whatever else that old house breaks down, or work texting you or something. So I'm just trying to figure out. You can't be like I don't want to deal with the rest of life right now. I need to be at peace.
But why do you have that impression that you don't want to handle whatever that needs to be handled?
Because it seems like you're going, okay, eat right, sleep well,
eat right, sleep well, schedule,
wear right clothing, right. So I'm just trying to figure out, because I mean that's
if there are things that we need to handle and we put it aside, what is that? Procrastination, right? Yeah. So it goes back to the practice of right religion, the practice of middle way. Okay. So when it comes to practice, it's not saying that, oh, I don't want to take care of this. It is my time to practice. That we can have a better management of the time, knowing that by 5, I need to do certain things. Then you can manage your schedule. But of course, sometimes there could be things that just happen, not in the schedule. So what should we do? Ignore it? or we take care of it. We have to take care of it. We still need to take care of it. Okay. So we shouldn't think that having this regulated lifestyle, when things happen, we just ignore them or put it aside. Okay, so this is referring to the choices that we have. If we have this choice to have a regulated, balanced lifestyle, of course, we try our best to make it happen. But of course, sometimes there are things that is not our choice. Like, for example, the nurses, the doctors, or whatever occupations that needs you to do certain things at a certain time. Like could be nighttime, it could be wee hours. This is part of your life. You need to make adjustment accordingly. Okay? It's not by choice. Okay. Just like the examples I mentioned about the fisherman living this island. Of course, you have the choice to move out that island. That is an option. Okay. Or if you think that your job is giving you too much pressure, you also have the option to move to another job. Okay. But of course, you need to think about the responsibility, whether you can get another better job. All this you have to think about it. Yes, Saiba.
Also, I know that now the most recent like neurological study from the show that the best, like you get the best results if you, for example, work 25
Saiba,
minutes.
if you want to come over so that I don't have to repeat, because Jessica and Tom and Emily are still online. If you can use the microphone.
I was just saying that now the latest neurological studies show that the most productive way to work is actually like you do 25 minutes work and then you take a 5-minute break, then you do 25 minutes and you take a 15-minute break. Or you can do 50 minutes with then a 10-minute break. But in all of them, it's like you have to build in those breaks in order to actually be able to work well. So
Thank you. Well, thank you, Sarah. So, if possible, of course, like we just follow the advice of the neurologist to have like 25 minutes of work and then 5-minute break. I was just thinking, as you were sharing, I was thinking about the chanting service. We usually have like chanting service. The shortest I would say like an hour. But then during the chanting prayers or the prayer service, we do alteration. Like for example, we will stand to do chanting, we sit down, we do walking meditation, we do sitting meditation. Just like tomorrow, we're going to have the whole day of the recitation of Amitabha Buddha's name. So during that whole day from 10 to 4, we have different sessions, even like within the 50 minutes, 50 minutes, 50. Okay, we will have a recitation of the sutras where we sit down and then we stand up. As we recite the Buddha's name, we go around the cushions doing walking meditation while we recite the Buddha's name. And then there'll be time for us to sit on the cushion where we do silent meditation. Okay, even though it might be short, like the most is like 10 minutes, there's an alteration within the hour of the chanting, the prayer service. Okay. But then thank you for sharing this. It's always a good reminder for us that when we are really focusing on get things done, we also need to give ourselves a break in between for the sake of physical and mental health. Okay. So because of the time, we will conclude our class for today. So let us all join our palms as we do dedication merit. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and Precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. So I hope that everyone have a great time with the family, especially during this holiday season, end of the year. And then for those of you who are here in San Diego, I'll see you beginning of the first Saturday of next year. And for those of you joining me online via FoGuangHuB, the class will resume in March next year. So Jessica, I haven't received your email. So I messaged you, so hopefully you can let me know when you can volunteer. So I don't want to take up too much of time and hope to see everyone again and stay safe. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Venerable Miao-Zhang.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I was hoping that January would be a good time for me to go.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I left you a message. So I
Okay.
hope that you can see my email address. Yeah.
Yes. I can
Yeah,
send you
just
some stuff.
email me, okay, when you get a
Great.
chance.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.